We may want to respond to the user in different ways, depending on what we know about them or what they tell us. One way we can do this in Cognigy is through an if node. If nodes provide basic branching logic. If you aren't familiar with the concept, if nodes test for a condition and either follow a then path or an else path. So for example, if it's morning, then make coffee, else drink water. If it's raining, then bring an umbrella, else wear sunglasses. Sometimes there's a then without an else. If your battery is low, then charge your phone. Else, you don't need to do anything. In Cognigy, I can add an if node to my flowchart, and Cognigy automatically creates the if node, a then branch, and an else branch. You'll see that the if branch has a default condition of 1 equals 1. You'll always ignore that and add your own condition. We'll spend all of this session talking about the rule editor, which is what you see in the Edit Node panel when you click on an if node. The rule editor is the tool we use to create conditions. A condition is the thing we're testing for, like if it's morning, if it's raining, or if your battery is low. You'll see at the bottom of the rule editor, there's the option to use the advanced editor. We'll talk about the advanced editor in a later course when we learn about Cognigy scripts. The rule editor gives you the power to check for conditions using tokens. But before we get there, let's test out some basic operators. To help us know how the condition is evaluated, I'll add a say node after the then and else nodes. If I start the chat, I see the then branch was hit. That's because the condition is 1 equals 1, and we know that 1 does in fact equal 1. I'll change the condition to 1 equals 2. And when I test that out, the else branch gets triggered because 1 doesn't equal 2. If I change the condition to 1 is less than 2, the then branch gets triggered. Same is true if I change it to 1 not equals 2. Let's try another one. I can test if one word contains another. So, for example, I can test if Cognigy contains cog. And it does. Note that contains is case sensitive. So if I test if Cognigy contains small cog, it triggers the else path. Let's look at some practical examples. To start the flow, I'll add a question node and make it a yes/no question. Is it raining outside? In my if condition, I want to test if the user answered yes or no. I'll choose the last question result token, and I'll choose is yes from the drop-down list. I'll give it a try. If I say yes, I go down the then branch. If I say no, I go down the else branch. Let's use another question type, like a number. I'll ask how many bags did you want to check? For my check, I'll see if the first number slot is greater than 0. If I answer 3, it triggers the then branch. If I answer 0, it follows the else branch. What if I want to greet someone by their name if it exists? I'll remove my question node. In my if node, I'll choose first name as my token, and I'll choose exists as my operator. Let's test it out. Cognigy doesn't know my first name, so why don't we ask? On the else branch, I'll add a question node. I'll make it a text question type and I'll ask, what is your first name? Under profile storage, I'll choose write result to contact profile, and I'll choose first name as my profile key. On the then branch, I actually want to greet the user by their name. I'll add a say node and I'll say hello, first name. Let's test it again. Now that Cognigy knows my first name, it can greet me by name. Remember that the profile values are persisted across conversations, so next time I talk to the bot, it will still remember my name. That covers the basic topics for if nodes. If nodes can become more powerful in combination with Cognigy script, and we'll talk about that in the Flow Developer course.